We talked before about pregnancy, post-pregnancy, and when I came to you, I had a lot of, you know, injuries, ailments, and probably went back to exercise a little too soon post-pregnancy. But our bodies change a lot during pregnancy, probably more than we realise, and post-pregnancy then, I don't think we really understand just how much our bodies have changed.
Post-pregnancy is an interesting area because, you know, there's comments out there that, you know, you shouldn't exercise for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Or
some people say 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah.
Yes, there's an element of truth in that. But what I would tend to say to people is come in when you feel okay. Because a lot of women have a C-section, as we know, and a lot of women have a diastasis, a separation of the abdominal wall. And we recommend a 5-week program specifically for those early days post-pregnancy. And then, sure, then after your 6 or 8 weeks or whatever,
you would be monitored, it would be gentle.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're trying to, if you have a diastasis, we're trying to bring that back. If you've a C-section and you're feeling very tender, we're just trying to wake up the muscle very gently, very slowly. But it's a detailed
and I suppose one of the most important things for women to understand is, like, I got back into my jeans, thank you.
Yes.
But only about, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks ago now, and that's coming near 20 months after having. So I always used to hear people saying, oh, it takes 9 months to put it on, so it takes 9 months to lose it. So when I hit the 9-month mark, I was like, damn, hold on a second. But you know, the perception out there, I was a model, I was back, yes, I was back working, but with my height, I still wasn't back into my jeans. We put an awful lot of pressure on ourselves as mums and as women these days, so we really need to give ourselves a break. So are you of the opinion of taking your time?
Take your time and listen to your body.
Okay.
You know, your rib cage can expand from pregnancy, so that can make you appear wider. And yes, we can draw it down, but it takes time.
And our hips are, you know, as women, we want, we would love to have toned bum and hips.
Yeah.
But from what you've told me, our glutes kind of become redundant during pregnancy.
They can switch off a little bit, and we can clench them and over tense just to stabilize ourselves. Our bodies are intelligent; they'll move us one way or another, whether they recruit the correct or the incorrect muscles. If you keep recruiting the incorrect muscles, you often have pain then.
Yes.
Okay, and so that's what's happening there. But yeah, your posture changes, as we've discussed many times, so much in pregnancy. Your lower back gets very stiff, your legs get very tired and weak, your hips get very stiff.
But would you say Pilates is good to keep up during pregnancy to give you strength for labour? Is there truth in that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is.
And I tell you, the one thing that worked for me in my labour is that I took an epidural.
Yes, so did I.
Yeah, and the midwife was saying to me to push, and I knew, and I had twins, so I had to push a couple of times. And the midwife kept saying to me, push, and I knew exactly what to push. And then when I was talking to a friend of mine, she obviously had the exact same experience, and she said the midwife was asking her to push, and she didn't know what. She couldn't feel anything because of the epidural, and it created a panic situation for her. So Pilates will also introduce you to muscles in your body that you're perhaps not so familiar with. So on the day,
you get to know your body a bit better. And I suppose,
body.
You know, keeping fit throughout your pregnancy will help you a little bit more post-pregnancy to get back into, you know, your jeans and back into the shape that you were.
And so you understand where your body's going. So as I said earlier, you know, your tummy will come forwards, your low back will get tighter. And just to understand that, and then do exercise to get a little bit of length and comfort there. And then post-pregnancy, the baby is born, so you don't have that pressure and support for your low back. So we now want to deal with that, so again you're comfortable and you can function well.
So Sarah, I'm always looking at these pictures when I'm working out here, and I have to say I love them. And what struck me more is they are from New York, am I correct?
Yeah.
So he moved to New York?
He moved to New York, he did. And he started his Pilates method mostly with sort of dancers and boxers and actors. Really very fit people, actually. And his wife Clara was a nurse, and she tended to work with people who were not so fit. But yeah, I mean, dancers who had injuries and wanted to get back to their career of dance, they'd nowhere else much to go.
Now, there was a story you were telling me about when he looked after you know, guys that were injured from the war. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, he had about 30 people in his dorm, and you know, as we know, most of the soldiers died once they got off the field, you know, from infection or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was an epidemic of influenza at the time, and all his 30 patients were absolutely fine. They all lived and they got through it, and he did his Pilates
daily with them.
On them. Yeah. And he then created the reformer from the, you can imagine from movies or whatever, the white German hospital beds with the springs. And so he created the reformer from there, so that he didn't have to go around to each person every day because it was too much work for him.
Okay.
And that's how they restored him. That's where it was.
Now, one of the interesting things that we were looking at earlier is this one of the original beds.
Yeah.
And I know myself, having lived in New York for 8 years, space is incredibly limited and apartments are tiny.
Yeah.
Now you were saying he had that at the forefront of his mind when he was making these.
Absolutely. His dream was that there would be a Pilates studio in every corner of Manhattan.
Okay.
Which it has far surpassed that now today. But yeah, the reformers there, again, they're about the size of a single bed, and what you would do is put a cover on top of it, so it looked like, you know, those long day couches.
Like the chaise lounge type couches.
Exactly, yeah. So in your apartment in New York, that was a couch, and you lifted the top off to do your workout.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And he also designed the Wonder chair, which we have in the other room there. But again, you could exercise on it, and then you could flip it over, and it became like a single armchair. Again, that small apartment.
Which is brilliant. That's really understanding how to live in New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
No excuse. You have to exercise
that's
now.
it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's great. Wow.
And that's his wife there beside him, Clara. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks a million, Sarah.
No problem.